Hey, good morning once again, options traders. Well, many of you use, at least for your longer term positions, some type of an averaging method or what we call scaling into positions, where you're going to be taking small bites over time. The problem is that many times you're going, is it really worth it for me to put more money in today? Is it going to make a big difference to my average cost? And then you think, well, gee, I've done 50 purchases over the last several years, and in order to find out my average, I have to pull up all of those confirms, add them up, divide by the number, and it just becomes overwhelming. Well, that's not true. There's a much faster way to figure out your average cost. So what is it? Let's go find out. And as always, before we get started, please be sure to click like and subscribe. It's definitely very much appreciated and helps to promote the channel. So again, the basic idea here is that we're talking about any position that you're using for dollar cost averaging. You're looking for a longer term play in a stock or usually a mutual fund. And what you're going to do is to buy at different price levels to capture average prices. It's a really powerful technique. Now, yes, it is true that you won't buy at the bottom. And that's why a lot of traders say, I don't want to do it. But that's not the reason we use an averaging method. It's because you also won't buy at the top. But in order to make this technique work, you have to ask, is it worth buying at the current price? So once again, maybe you've got 50 purchases over the years and the stock has pulled back $5 or $10 and you want to throw some more money at it. Well, if it's not really going to make a big difference to your average cost, you have to say, what's the point? It's just putting more money in without really bringing down the average cost. But how do you figure that out? Well, again, there's a very easy way to do it. And to understand the math behind it, let's start with a simple example. Let's say that you have two prices where you have used your averaging method, 90 and 100. You've put $1,000 in at 90 and $1,000 at 100. What's your average cost? Well, that's pretty easy to figure out because they are equally weighted or equally balanced, and therefore it should be right here between 90 and 100 at 95. So you can also think of this as a seesaw, that we've got 10 points wide, or you could think of it as 10 feet wide. You've got a 1,000 pound weight on this side and a 1,000 pound weight on this side. Where would it balance? Right there in the center. And so that's going to be at 95. But there's a different way we can come up with the same answer, and it's going to appear to be more complicated now, but you're going to see that this is what makes it super easy for the more complicated problems. So let's take a look at the total dollars you've put in. You have $2,000 total, and at 90 you have 1,000 of the 2,000 invested, or 50%. And therefore you have 50% invested at 100. So we're just going to take 50% at $90. We're going to take this 50% times the $100. So 50% of 90 bucks is 45, 50% of 100 is 50, and we just simply add these two numbers together, and that gives us 95. So why is this a simpler method? Well, the problem is over time, you might have lots and lots of purchases. And so this is where traders will say, I've got to pull up all of these different confirms, all of these different prices, add them up and divide by the number. Well, that's not true, because your broker's platform will show you your average cost. It won't show all of the individual buys and sells. It will in the history, but usually on your account screen or some type of a position screen, it will show you the average for that position. So let's say that you have an average of 105. And let's say that over time you have put $9,000 on average right here. Now, the beautiful thing about averages is that you can think of it as though you put it all in at one time. It doesn't matter if you've done 10 or 20 or 50 different purchases. It's as if you put all $9,000 right here at 105. And so now let's say the stock has fallen down here to 85 and you want to put some more money into it. You want to put another $1,000 into this stock or into this fund. What's your average cost now? Well, again, this is where most traders would say, gee, I've got to go back and pull up all of these confirms. Not if you understand averages. Again, on average, it's as if you have put all $9,000 at 105. So now go right back to the calculation we just saw. How many dollars do you have total invested? 10,000. 1,000 of the 10,000 represents 10% down here at 85, and therefore 90% represents a purchase up here at 105. So we just take 10% of 85 and we take 90% of 105. That gives us 8.5. 90% of 105 gives us 94.50. We add these two numbers together and it tells us that our average is 103. That should also make some intuitive sense. Not a bad idea to check your calculations intuitively. And you can see that we have far more weight. 90% of the weight is up here at 105. It's not 100%, so the average can't be 105. It's going to be pulled down a little bit, just not a lot. And so we can see that 103 is in fact much closer to 105. So that also kind of makes intuitive sense. So now in the future, we just do the same thing over and over. Your broker's platform will now update your position to show that your average is 103 and you've got 10,000 bucks into it. Let's say the stock is at 90 and you want to put another 500 bucks into it. How do you figure it out? Well, how many dollars would you have invested total? 10,500. How much is 500 divided by 10,500? It's 4.8%. And therefore we have 95.2% up here at 103. So we're just going to take 4.8% times 90 and 95.2% times 103. That gives us $4.32 over here. It gives us 98.06 over here. We add these two together and the average is 102.38. So this is another good example where in a case like this, I probably wouldn't do this additional purchase. It's only bringing your average down from 103 to 102.38. It's hardly making a dent. And yet you are putting more dollars and therefore have more deltas for a fall if it should go against you. Instead, doesn't hurt to average up, but at least you know that the trend is moving in your favor. Or wait to see if the stock pulls back some more and make a more significant difference to your average cost. But I hope that at least helps you. I've had a number of people saying, how do I figure out my average cost when I'm scaling into positions? And this is the easiest way to do it. And so for anyone who'd like to learn more about the art and science of options trading, please check out the Alpha Trader course, Strategy Lab, and a technical analysis course. It's all at optionsatoz.com. Also, please join us on Options A to Z's Facebook trading group, and you can find a link in the description below.